Ta-da! Hello everyone, my name is Ace Gamer, and I'm really excited to show off today's project. So those of you that have known me for a long time know that I've been a 3D printer and 3D maker for a long time now, and one of the biggest inspirations for me to make has always been, can I use recycled material in my 3D printing? And the ultimate goal has been to, can I take items out of my recycling bin and print with them rather than throw them away? And today I've taken a big step forward towards that, and I'm so excited. So earlier I had gone to East Coast Rep Festival 2023, where I met with Josh from JRT3D, where he showed me the ReCreator3D. Since then, I have been encouraged to continue building mine, and he's even helped me with some of the intricacies of building. I've seen videos from people like CNC Kitchen that have also built the ReCreator3D, and today I'm ready to put my hat in the ring and show off my build of the ReCreator3D. Before I get into showing off the final build, there are some things that I wanted to discuss about the actual before building and the printing of the ReCreator. One thing I noticed is that the parts list is just print every part that you get when you download, and I noticed that some of the parts you don't necessarily need, and there's also not a definitive source for what parts should be in what material. Whether they be PETG, TPU, PLA, etc. And so for anybody watching, I used this Excel sheet, which I will be showing on screen. Feel free to pause and take a better look. Here I have each part listed out and what material I used and then what color I used. I feel that the color is really easy to take a look at my final build and compare it to the files so that you can see which part is which file a lot easier. So I used a green PETG, a blue PETG, a silk green and blue PLA, a green TPU, a white PLA, and a gray PLA. So that is all from me on the front end of the build. I'll take you to Ace Gamer in my office to show you the actual build. So this is my build of the ReCreator. Rather than go through and do a build video where I go through the building of the actual ReCreator itself, I would like to try something different. And instead, the build is already finished. I don't have any footage of me building it. Instead, I want to go through and mention things that I saw as I was building that might be important for anyone that wants to build this themselves. I want to add on to the content that's already there, be it from JRT3D or from CNC Kitchen. So the first big thing that I would like to mention is that the project requires a little bit of work with power tools and stuff. So the hardest part for me, ironically enough, was not the ReCreator build itself, but actually the bottle cutter. So looking here, you can see that my bottle cutter is kind of scraped up here. So the grinding of these bearings was probably the hardest thing I had to do here. I don't have a angle grinder, and I don't have a proper sanding jig, so I had to hold a palm sander on these using a wooden jig that I custom made by using a drill press, which kind of was a pain and didn't work out perfectly. That was a clean pull. So that's something I still have to work out. That's not a complaint with the system at all. It's just something I have to work out. But the grinding of the bearings is a little difficult. And again, there's not really an easy way around that. Otherwise, I would have done that. Looking on like Amazon, there's not really a great like thing to buy that isn't the community cutter. Everything on Amazon gets like terrible reviews. So I haven't found a great replacement for this yet. But what there is works really well if you have the proper equipment, which is probably a silly thing to say, and I understand that. So the issue is definitely not with the ReCreator itself, it's with me. I lack the proper tools to make this happen. So these are the badge rails that I got. They are not the ones that the actual instructions call for. They're actually a little bit cheaper because 3 of these is $1 at the dollar store rather than $1 per badge reel, which doesn't necessarily matter if you're just building one ReCreator, but I have a couple of other projects I want to use badge reels for, so for me it was way better to get the multiple, which meant that I had to kind of, you know, cut that out a little bit to fit. So I didn't use the Z-Rod, instead I have a wooden dowel that I cut to be the same size. This is because I took the Z-Rod and actually used it on another one of my printers. So I have another CR10, and I wanted to use the Z-Rod from the old CR10 that I turned into the ReCreator to make my existing CR10 dual Z. So looking at the actual build itself, I have since dubbed this scrappy because it was a very scrappy build. I think you can see the biggest glaring issue, if you want to call it, is it doesn't look as good as the actual build, and it's actually kind of backwards. So this is the screen is normally on the right, and on the panels are on the left, along with the signage. So the reason I had to do that is because I built this using an old CR10 and the CR10 pieces, and the CR10 normally has a little box that goes next to the printer. It's not like an all-in-one unit like the Ender series, and so the power supply and the cords that go along with it are not long enough for it to go this way. So I had to spin this around because I couldn't. Normally what you're supposed to do here is actually have the screen on this side. I couldn't spin it this way because the cords aren't long enough. I had to drill the holes here myself because the switch and the power in are a different size than with the normal Ender. The whole point of the ReCreator is supposed to be taking something that would be waste and turning it into something that is now useful. And so this was a CR10 that I got from a buddy of mine around when 2020, when COVID hit. One thing I will point out is, and that's actually why this here is loose and not really working, the voltage between the CR10 and the Ender is different. So this is actually a 12 volt power supply, and all of the parts here are 12 volts. You have to be very careful if you're going to do something like what I did here, because you want to keep the voltages the same. So all of the important pieces here, the heat break and the thermistor, those two are all suited for 12 volt power. The power supply itself is suited for 12 volts. Same with the board and same with the motors. The motors, I don't think it matters because those get the voltage out of the board itself. So I don't believe they get the 12 volts coming out of the power supply. I apologize, I'm not an electrical engineer, so I don't know for certain. But the thermistor and the heat break, those are voltage specific. So you really want to make sure that you are using a 24 and 24 or a 12 and 12. You do not want to mix those because then they won't work. Same thing, I thought I could get away with using these 24 volt fans from an Ender. You can see there's the Ender logo. I thought I could get away with using an Ender fan shroud. Again, this is the old one off of the V2 because I got the Sprite extruder, but I can't. They don't receive enough power, and I believe I will swap these out with a old CR10 fan shroud. So this I will fix in the future. So right here is a clear PLA that I had that I printed off this frog. As you can see, the layer lines are a little visible. Stringing is okay. My profiles aren't super dialed in because I don't really worry about stringing. I normally just blow the stringing off with a heat gun. So this is what I would consider a really good print, and the filament works really well for me. Comparing that with this frog right here, this is the one that if you watch my shorts, this is the short from 2 days ago, and the print came out beautifully. You can see here, it's got a little bit of stringing, which is to be expected, but the overall quality is really, really good. There is this little blemish of blue right there. That is completely my fault because I had some blue PLA still stuck in the hot end as I was printing. And so it kind of gummed up and burnt out while it was printing. That was cleared out when I shifted to this PT, which I'll talk about in a second. But as you can see, the quality is fantastic, and I will also show another comparison. Thanks, Ace. Here I am with another comparison piece that I just wanted to show off how well this recycled PET prints. If you remember a little bit ago, I showed off this fox print as a way to show off how to print multicolored pieces. But it was not for no reason. I printed this off and thought it was so cute, I wanted to just run it off in some PET. And I think it operates as a really great way to show off how well this filament prints, despite the fact that it's just plastic from the recycling bin. It's nothing complicated. So here is Orange PLA Pro from Inland, and you can see it's really good. Picks up a lot of the detail of the fox's coat here, and you can see the layer lines are kind of hidden behind that fur coat, which is really good. This is just my standard PLA profile, and I don't have the best profiles out there, so just know that. But one thing I did notice is that the top has a lot of, hopefully that comes out, the top has a lot of artifacting that's kind of ugly if you're looking at the model. However, if you look here, one of the things that the PET does a good job of is that artifacting kind of gets smoothed out. Now that might just be because of the difference in color, because this is a clear print. Stuff like that artifacting is going to come out a little bit in the color. And so this having no color, that's harder to see. But the thing I wanted to show off, and I just can't get over how cool this is, but the amount of detail that you can get on the fur there is just crazy to me. So this is the exact same profile. The only difference is this one has a 260-degree hot end and a little bit more flow to compensate for the fact that the filament is hollow. Both of them have a little bit of artifacting underneath the chin, but that is a really, really steep overhang. So I didn't expect either of them to really be able to handle that. But there is that comparison piece on a model that's more complicated than my frog. So back to you, Ace. So moving on from filament that was given to me, this right here is the first roll that I made myself. And I wanted to test it out with a frog because, you know, that's what my test prints normally are, is with the frogs. So overall quality on this is not fantastic. You can see that the lines are splitting a little bit, especially here at the end. And if you can't really see this on camera, but if you run your fingers over it, it's very rough because I wasn't pulling fast enough. And so it wasn't actually combining. It was just sitting in the heat break right here. And so it was just gumming up. It wasn't fully working. But I have since gotten way, way, way better at it. So I ran off a frog in the filament that I had made myself because I wanted to see if I could recreate, no pun intended, the quality that I had seen with the spools from JRT3D. And my first batch, like I mentioned, was kind of rough, and you could see that out in the final model. There is some bubbling here on the stomach. There's a lot of stringing, but overall, I gotta say, Hopefully it comes out on camera. But the quality is not too bad, all things considered. And the main reason that I'm saying that, despite all of these blemishes, is because the one thing I haven't mentioned with this filament is how much water it takes in. So this PET is very, very hygroscopic. So I won't go too far into that because I want to make a separate video about printing with PET compared to PETG. But the thing that I will say is that drying is very, 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 very important if you're going to print with any material that isn't PLA, in my experience, but especially with recycled PET, because it will take on even more water than PETG normally does. And so that is why I am confident saying that these blemishes are because I didn't dry the filament enough. When I was working with the PET, printing the pieces for the ReCreator itself, I got a little bit ahead of myself and printed without drying because I said, oh, you know what, it'll just buff itself out, but it ended up bubbling and cracking and popping in the exact same way that this filament is. So I truly believe that all of the issues that I'm seeing in this print are only because I didn't dry this filament enough. And I will take you over to the dryer to explain a little bit of that. This dryer right here that I got from Sovol, I have been very happy with. It's not too complicated. You just turn it on and pick the temp. There's only 3 different options: 40 degrees, 45 degrees, and 50 degrees Celsius. I have found that recycled PET in this dryer for 6 hours is enough to drive off all of the potential moisture. Again, I haven't done super amounts of testing, so this might change in the future and my recommendations might change. But from the little bit of PET that I have with a little bit of desiccant at the bottom of this dryer, 6 hours, 50 degrees has driven off all of the moisture, and you've seen in the comparison shots how well the filament can print. But again, I want to make a full video on this a little bit later, so stay tuned for that. So all in all, I'm very, very, very happy with how this project went. I'm probably a little biased because again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, my whole reason for wanting to be an environmental engineer is because I want to print with recycled material. And so this being that first step towards that has just been so cool. I'm also fairly new at this, and so I haven't learned all that needs to be done in order to fully maximize my efficiency when using this machine, be that prepping the bottles, getting them cut, and then finally turning them into filament, which is printed. All of it takes a little bit of trial and error, and the big announcement of the video that I'm so excited to has to do with a lot of what I just mentioned. So I'm going to take you over to post-processing Ace so that he can tell you a little bit about that. So I hope that this video has done a great job at showing off the ReCreator and maybe enticing you to make your own and join the ReCreator community. That being said, I want to formally announce, and I am so excited about this, that I will be a ReCreator ambassador. So me and Josh from JRT3D have been working on this for a little bit, and today I am going to be formally announcing it. The specifics of this program have not been fully developed. In the meantime, what does that mean for my channel? Well, really, it's not going to change almost anything with the actual channel. I'm still going to be making the normal videos that I do, the streams that I still do. However, you're going to notice a lot more of me using recycled PET, which is really exciting that I get this opportunity to be an ambassador for something that I'm so excited for. But I have a lot of video ideas of how I can take recreated filament a little bit further, be that how we can print in color, some techniques on how to print PET a little bit easier than normal. There's been a lot of developments in the community, and I want to try and use my channel as a way to put that all in a concise place for anybody that wants to do the same thing that I'm doing, which is just printing with recycled material. And who knows, this could go crazy and we could start printing with even more than I even imagined. And I'm so excited for this opportunity, and I want to thank everybody who has been a part of this. You guys have been great. So with all that being said, I want to thank you all very much for watching. and I hope to see you in the next video. So, bye-bye!
Oh, that one wasn't too bad, actually. There we go.